downside of the sale season is that it signals the end of the turf season, at least the flat turf season. But of course, having said that, you've got a lot of all-weather racing, and Southwell Racecourse, they're currently relaying their surface, so there are plenty of all-weather tracks around. And as I said, Solaria Racing will be having two two-year-olds ploughing their furrow, as it will, over the winter. So, as I said, watch them. But of course, from your point of view, Phil, I know really you're a jumps man. It's the start of the jump season proper. The jumps racing has never really gone away because they don't have much of a break. But a lot of the trainers don't have many summer jumpers. So you must be really looking forward to it, Phil.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Like you say, there's summer jumping is going on, and obviously we were at a jumps meeting yesterday, although it didn't feel very summery, but the real sort of stars of jump racing start sort of coming out October, November time and working their way through to all of the big end of season festivals, Cheltenham, the Aintree Grand National meeting, the big meetings in Ireland at Punchestown and Fairyhouse, things like that. They're the real big end of season targets, and those are those type of horses that are aiming at those start to come out now. The first Cheltenham meeting is in October. I'm an annual member at Cheltenham, so I go to all of the meetings down there, and it'll be great to be back there in person this season because obviously I didn't get much for my annual membership in terms of live action last year. I think I went to one day in between the two sections where spectators weren't permitted, but this year I'm hoping to be there for most of the meetings. It'll be great to be back, see all the people I know there, and obviously watch some top class jumps action.
Well, that's right. But of course, before the jumps racing really gets going, we've still got some exciting races on the flat. We've got Champions Day to come, Breeders' Cup, and before both of those big meetings, we've got the Arc de Triomphe. And I thought, as it's the 100th running of the Arc de Triomphe coming up, I thought I'd focus on that. And I've been through those, well, I think we've got 16 horses who could stand their ground. We haven't had final declarations yet. I remember when Dancing Brave won the Arc with Pat Hedry, they said that was an absolute vintage renewal of the race because I think Pat came from last to first and he beat 6 or 7 Group 1 winners. Well, this year, but have a guess, Phil, how many horses have won Group 1 races out of those 16 horses I mentioned?
I can certainly think of 4 or 5 off the top of my head. How many is the total?
10.
Wow.
Some of those obviously have won abroad. And I know the Japanese have always been wanting to win this race, haven't they? They've got Chronogenesis, who's a 10-1 shot, and a champion jockey, Oisin Murphy, has been booked to ride that many, many weeks ago. So I know he's really looking forward to that. Of course, the favourite, well, you've got sort of 2 horses vying for joint favouritism. You've got the Derby and King George winner Adayar, and I know you're a big fan of Adayar, trained by Charlie Appleby for Godolphin. And we've got another horse, and he's the top rated, by the way, rated 127 on official ratings. And then we've got Tanawa, the 5-year-old trained by Dermot Weld, who had a fantastic season last year, won a Breeders' Cup. And prior to that, he won 2 Group 1s at Longchamp. So he clearly likes the course. Those 2 horses are trading at about 5-2, 11-4. The other Godolphin horse we've got, who I know Charlie Appleby has said would want it fairly soft, he certainly wouldn't want it firm, is Hurricane Lane. That's a 5-1 shot. If that does take its chance, then James Doyle will ride that. William Buick has already nailed his colours to the mast of Adayar. It's a fantastic field. I mean, we've got Snowfall in there, who looked invincible, didn't she, earlier on in the season?
She did.
Multiple Group 1 winner. She's a 6-1 shot for a trainer, Aidan O'Brien. We've got Love. Now, you've got a horse called Love, who, again, one of the great fillies trained by Aidan O'Brien, a 4-year-old. Amazing that she's available at 25-1. Who'd have thought that? That just shows the quality, I think, of this race. The horse I quite like the look of is an outsider, and it's the mounted Tom Marquand. And I know publicly he's been very keen on the horse's chances. It's Alonquier, trained by Newmarket trainer Willie Haggis. Now, he's certainly somebody who doesn't tilt at windmills. That's a 33-1 shot. It won the King Edward VII at Ascot on heavy going. So if Longchamp does get a lot more rain, you could do worse maybe than have a little each way in Alonquier. Anyway, I won't go through all the field, but they're my thoughts. Any thoughts of your own, Phil? Any fancies that you've got at this stage?
Well, obviously, having had Sam Bullard on the podcast last month, it'd be nice if Adair or Hurricane Lane could boost their stallion credentials for the Godolphin team. But I love these types of races. It's the same as sort of betting at the Cheltenham Festival and things like that. You actually can back a horse that's really, no reason why it can't win at all, but because of the quality of the field, is available, like you say, at a big price. So having heard you go through there and heard you say that Love was 25-1, that would interest me. I know that she hasn't been sort of unbeaten this season. I know she has had her sort of colours sort of taken down on at least one occasion, but I still think that she's a cracking filly, and getting the sort of fillies allowances, I think she could be a decent each way bet at those prices.
And I think for the benefit of our listeners, who many of whom will probably know this, if you do fancy a flutter and want to do it nearer the time, a lot of these bookmakers, especially if the field is a fairly good size field, will pay out on 4 places each way, maybe even 5. So, your 25-1 Love each way bookie doing 4 or 5 places could be a bit of value, couldn't it?
Oh, it certainly could. And yeah, you're right. Those offers are quite often available sort of on the morning of the race. So if you don't fancy something too far in advance, it's always worth seeing whether there's any sort of special deals available on the day, don't you think?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I'm glad to hear you sort of telling me that there's plenty more of the flat racing season to go, because I still need to find a race or two for our flat filly. And as you said, you've got 2 2-year-olds that we need to get them onto the race course and see what they're capable of. So just as well that we've probably still got another month or so of the flat season to run alongside the start of the jumps. Anyway, I'm just thinking of the time. It might be time to wind this up before we start to get the hurry up from our producer Callum. He'll be needing to edit this down to a manageable size and make us look good, so he's got plenty of work on his hands, I think. But yeah, there's plenty to look forward to, isn't there? It'll be good to get a bookmaker's insight. I know we've talked about that, getting a guest on from the bookmaking industry. We'll certainly be talking more to more race courses, more trainers, more jockeys. I know you're hoping to get a jockey's agent into the interview chair as well, aren't you? So it'd be definitely worth following the podcast if you don't already, because there's could be some good guests.
Well, that just leaves me to thank co-host Phil Boyle from BG Racing, producer Callum Ronan from Callum Ronan Creative, and you, the listeners. There's definitely an autumnal nip in the air, which means the jump season soon starts to crank up a gear, but there's more to come on the flat with the 100th Arc de Triomphe a few days away, and it's yearling sales season as buyers seek out equine stars of the future. This is Simon Double from Slaria Racing saying goodbye.